I'm so excited to sit down with Dino Rossetti and bring him to the world. This is a 5-time Blue Dragon winner. If you know, you know. He is an all-star coach that started his career back in 1999 with by referral only. I think one of the best fundamental sales trainings in the country. Then became a founding coach with the core training in 2001, did that for several years, and is now independently coaching through the Ultimate Business Partner. Currently, Dino, you coach 29 badass real estate agents and loan officers. You're in the game, in the weeds every single day. You're always iterating. There is nobody that has more passion and enthusiasm in my Catalyst program. Every voice note, every share, every post you bring just brings A-level energy. You've been married for over 20 years. You've got a great relationship with your children. Those of you in my inner circle, and we're at Slay with Shay, know Dino's full and complete and colorful and interesting story. Dino, you're going to have to write a book. We're going to save that story for another time.
All right.
Because today, I really want you to put on your Coach Dino hat and help us. You know, you say you love running a sales dojo, so we're going to go there. But thank you for being on the show.
Shayla Gifford, what a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. It's, I've heard about you over the years. And then when I finally got to meet you, it was everything and then some. And you've been a true blessing in my life in the short amount of time. I just feel like we've known each other a long time. You know what I mean? Even though we haven't really known each other that long in person. So thank you. I'm fired up.
I'm fired up too. I want to talk about the genesis of you becoming a coach.
Okay.
So you're a loan officer, 1999, you meet Joe Stump and you go to by referral only. What was your behavior, your mindset, your hunger, your drive like before you found coaching? What happened over the next couple of years with coaching that led you to become a coach?
Yeah, it's a good question. I was a retail loan officer at a company called Sierra Pacific Mortgage. They're now a huge wholesaler. I got recruited right out of college. I got trained by the owner himself. So my whole exposure to lending was grind. And I remember when I started, I had like a sales route that I would just go. There's this street in Sacramento called Sunrise Boulevard. I'd go up and down Sunrise Boulevard. It's probably like 13 or 14 miles. And I'd stop in every real estate office on the right-hand side, so I'd stop in on the way out, stop in on the way back every single day. I remember I had, it was like a 1983 Ford Ranger with long bench seats with vinyl with no air conditioning. And my move was always I wore a suit and tie. and in Sacramento, it gets to be 110, 112 degrees, like for stretches at a time. And man, I would just walk into realtor's office dripping in sweat, beat red, didn't care. Just like I was always there. So my first, I'm going to say 7 years in lending was, you're not going to outwork me. You're not going to outsell me. You're not going to make more calls than me. You're not going to get more people to talk. I'm just going to, I'm looking around, seeing what it takes, and I'm just going to do more. I was young and no obligations other than to work and make money. And I really liked it. I really did like it. I quickly rose, did a bunch of loans, quickly became the top producer, neck and neck with another guy all the time as top producer. And one day I was told, hey, we're going to this sales event and we're all going. And I'm like, I don't want to go. I don't need sales. I am sales. What am I going to waste the time? Right. And my boss looked at me, he goes, no, you're especially going. And so message received. And so Shay, that was literally Joe Stump's half day in Sacramento. First time I ever heard of him. First time I ever saw him. There was probably a couple hundred people in the room. And within 20 minutes, I felt like I was the only one there. I felt like literally he was just talking to me. The way he broke down how a real business needs to run compared to how, not to run it, it was literally talking to me. And it was a half day. I was glued to him. After the event, I ran to the back of the room. This was back in the day where you ran to the back and signed up with your with your credit card and you left with like imagine a big cardboard box that had all the cassettes in it.
Yep.
I left with that and I bought everything he did. I was a student. I just drank it out of a fire hose and it changed me because fundamentally he taught me how to be a business person and work on my business, how to sharpen the saw, how to segment your business into these fundamental things of before, during, and after, and how to have actual systems in place for each one. And somewhat back then metrics in place for each one. It blew my mind because I always, and I still do, I think it's a bit of a blind spot I have, but I always put a lot of value on how hard you work. And over time, I realized it's not how hard you work, it's the value you bring. That's really what it is. And so this guy taught me so much value. And then from there, I actually started really liking coaching. So I went to the Dale Carnegie sales training course. I loved that one. I did that. And then I helped teach that one locally for several years. I went to the rapport leadership training course. I was a master graduate with them. That's super next level.
Super next level.
Super next level. And eventually I met the core training. And so that was weird because I pulled away from by referral only, like my comfort blanket with Joe, pulled away and went to this tornado of the core of like massive accountability. And I just found I liked it. I really liked it. So I was a student there for first couple years, then part-time coach, then coach of the coaches. It was wild. Everything I was learning, I was applying to my business. And so I went from really thinking I knew everything to understanding that there are so much to learn out there and so much you can learn from other people, and you can actually take the stuff you like and apply it to your business. I went total 180 from like, who needs coaching? I got this, to what was I thinking? And when you step back and think about it, Shay, like when you're a kid, you've got teachers, right? When you're a kid, you're in sports, you've got coaches. When you're in high school, you've got coaches. And then you go to college, you've got professors. And then all of a sudden you're in the real world. And you a lot of times you don't have a mentor or a coach. When you think about it like that, it makes no sense to not have that. So that was my journey in a nutshell.
I'm so happy you shared the egotistical Dino that you were pre-coaching, because I relate with that so much. I was 28 years old, making $300,000 a year. I'm a college dropout. I am totally aligned with valuing hard work, that I would outwork and out hustle somebody.
Yeah.
But I was the big fish in a little pond. And so I was definitely kind of uncoachable. I actually didn't even know there was such a thing as this sales training and sales coaching.
Isn't it crazy? I know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And it was like, so when you find those people that are like, I could call it egotistical, but also just very confident in themselves. Like, I'm proud of myself. I bust my ass. I'm very talented and I'm proud of my talent, but then become open-minded and coachable. Watch out, because those are the people who are like, oh, I'm going to take my work ethic, my natural God gifts and talents, and the things that I've, harnessed over time and grown. And now I'm going to combine that with being told what to do and being directed and just following a plan. And it's just lights out. And there's people that come into coaching and they pay the money and they're showing up. There's people that come to my catalyst calls every single week and they're like, yeah, but I don't use the planner. Yeah, I don't do a top 3 every day. I don't do the hot 15. I don't do the weekend download. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'm only teaching you stuff that's helped me make millions and have a badass marriage and kind of be on top of with my kids and be in the best shape of my life. And like, I'm just kind of teaching you all my secrets, but you do you. You can do whatever you want.
Yep.
Okay. So I know from there, your business exploded, and bringing it back to being a rainmaker, because being a rainmaker is creating such abundance that you're forced to become a business person.
Yep.
Because now you've made these promises, you've built this relationship, you've built this reputation in your town where it's like, oh boy, I'm in more abundance than I can handle. I have to become systematized on purpose, hire a team, have structure, and create sustained success. So, and I know that's what you did. Let's talk about trust builder archetype, because you're like 99.9% trust builder. It just feels so good to be with you. But you're actually a trust builder networker. So just like you described driving up and down Sunset Boulevard, stopping at every real estate office, that's exactly what a networker would do. And then you're good at converting them to friends. But when you got coaching, was there a refinement in using those two archetypes, like you said, to bringing value in a different way or spending your time in a different way? How would you describe that?
Yeah. It opens your eyes to the many, many ways you can get better. Because when you're operating at such a fast pace, if you neglect yourself to slow down and evaluate, I mean, logically, you're going to miss out on some opportunities or some ways to grow. You eventually might get there, but what if you can get there in half the time?
Yeah.
That's really what it is. So the big difference was stepping out of my comfort zone and doing different things networking wise. It is hard. It is hard to like do sales calls and walk. I mean, for me, it still is. You get the little butterflies, you're a little bit nervous, but then you get used to it. The concept that coaching really helped me with, Shay, was like, here's your comfort zone. And whatever it is right now, it's right here and that's fine. But you don't want to go out to the panic zone. Okay. Cause I was good at that. I was good at like just shoveling all sorts of shit on myself and then beating myself up for not, get to this panic. So there is this really interesting tension that you can create for yourself if you get slightly out of your comfort zone by doing just say one thing. And for somebody that thinks they can conquer all, which is that competitive spirit in me, like slowing down and saying, hey, let's just try this and stick to this for 90 days. And so for me, what that was I'd never done presentations. So I was asked to do to do presentations to realtors. I'm like, what am I going to say to a realtor? And so this was a bet. I've done so many bets with people in the core over time and lost. So I lost another bet. And so now I had to do this presentation to realtors and I decided to call it the Realtor Coffee. And I was super nervous, I remember, but I'm like, no, I'm going to do it. And it turned into like a every other Friday thing for years. For years, I did this Realtor Coffee. And it just got to the point where now I'm doing it at the Association of Realtors. And now I'm like regularly like walking or like doing different things I never thought I would do. But it's just because when you realize where you are in your comfort zone and just kind of push yourself a little bit to where you can feel that tension, that's a good spot. That's growth. That's a very good spot.
Let's just break down that visual because this stuff really works going from one to one to one to many. So I'm assuming as a trust builder, you're very, very comfortable one-to-one. You go really deep with people. You're immediately like a trustworthy guy, but you really care to show people you care. So you were networking to just get one-to-one. So Realtor Coffee, because of the name, I still think Realtor Coffee is a one-on-one coffee on a Friday, but that's not what it was.
Oh yeah, it was just like what I called it. No, so we'd have titles like Database or Death or 5 Ways to Get a Listing in 30 Days. And so on my little sales route, I'd have little flyers and I'd market the heck out of it, and then I'd say, oh, by the way, it's at the Laboo Coffee place over off of Sunrise, not even a mile from your office Friday. Come on over and bring a friend type of thing. And yes, people it grew into like 5 people, 15 people, to the point where we're at capacity in the room of 32, where we're just like a couple of people are standing. I mean, that was really a very new experience for me because I'm a loan officer. I'm not at this time, I'm just still hacking loans. I still want to just get to 18, 20 closings. I just need loans. I need leads. But all of a sudden I'm talking to a bunch of realtors, and there's this saying is like, how you do one thing is how you do all things, right? So I just learned if I do a really good job, if I'm organized, if the stuff looks nice, if I talk proper, if I'm on time, if I am, then that reflects on how I do things, like now, oh, hey, you're good at speaking. You're probably good at loans too. Hey, that was really good. You're probably good at loans too. Like it's a thing. I never would have never would have learned that had I not been challenged to get out of my comfort zone.
There's a couple things that stick out for me is that givers gain. If you go
Mm-hmm.
out there to just give, and serve people, it will come back. So I think that was the law of reciprocity happening for you.
Yeah.
Number two, you bring the A plus energy. And when you magnify that in a group of people, the buzz that people feel and your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. It's what they expect to experience when they meet you. And so you have such a great way of having enthusiasm. So getting a group of people around you and raising the temperature and the energy in the room through enthusiasm just means that everybody associates Dino Rossetti with positive, pure, beautiful, high energy. I want more Dino, right? Now, if I refer him a lead, I'm going to get a dose of that energy. If we close a deal together, I'm going to get the high five and the dose of the energy. So there's something amazing about putting yourself out there with your energy and enthusiasm and how that comes back. And the third thing is anytime you can teach, you are building authority, because people would rather die than public speak in most instances.
Yeah.
So what I like about what you did, Dino, is that you started in groups of 5 and you're bringing ideas to the table. That could simply be, I listened to this Bigger Pockets podcast and I'm bringing an idea to the table, or I'm going to this coaching conference and I'm bringing an idea to the table, or I'm going to highlight a top producer. I'm the one gathering the people. I'm the one creating the energy and community, but we're going to highlight this top producer here that is killing it on social media, or appears to be, or that is landing 3 new listings. And now you're putting somebody in lights, but you're the authority because you're bringing the people together. So this strategy absolutely, totally works. And I love that you said there's a comfort zone and then there's a panic zone.
Oh boy.
And a good coach is about taking you at your comfort zone and saying, okay, Dino, you're a trust builder and a networker, but how do we do that with refinement? And how do we push you a little out of your comfort zone so we could do that? So fast forward, I meet you from Brendan Donaldson, who also goes way back to the
Shout out to Brendan.
Brendan Donaldson, another OG, to the starting days of the core, and was there for 10 years as a coach as well. And he kept saying, you've got to meet Dino. And the fact that you live in Sacramento and I'm in Reno, Nevada was like, dude, there's a legend that's like, an hour and a half away. Man. I got to meet him. And I was like, as soon as I met you, like, why the hell are you such a secret? Like, you're the real flippin' deal. You walk the talk, you've won the dragons, you do the things, you are such a trust builder. And we get into this archetype thing, and you're like, you had forgotten, I think, that you were a trust builder and a networker. So you've built this coaching practice, this independent coaching practice, without shouting on social media and doing all kinds of things, because you deliver such value and you get referred like you're the, this referral guy. And then comes along Shayla and I'm like, hello, Dino, I'm going to throw your ass on stage. We're doing a podcast. You're coming to Reno to teach to my agents.
Yeah.
So what's happened for you, since us getting together and me kind of reminding you that you have both trust builder and both networker?
Yeah.
What's that experience been like for you?
Yeah. The word is visibility. And so my comfort zone was here. You in such a killer way help me remember that you're growing and living when you're expanding your comfort zone. When you're not really living. There's no, without growth, you're not really living to your potential, which is the irony, because that's what I talk about every damn day with my clients. And so, that saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yes.
Okay. I was the student. I drove to see the teacher. It was just a magical moment where I was like, okay, like literally, I don't think I even paused for 2 seconds. You made the offer and I'm like, okay. I remember driving home. First thing I did was I got on the freeway, called my wife. I'm like, God dang, guess what? And I told her what was happening. And she literally said, it's about time you started doing stuff like that again. She's like been my biggest fan and just like, like scratching her head, like, come on, dude, so it was just a very good thing that happened is like, I was ready.
Yes.
So what's happened since then is now I'm remembering the value of networking and the value of being visible and not being shy about being visible. So hell yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, and you're alive, baby. And
I'm alive, baby.
I think from the outside, people would have said you were alive before, but you're now getting to connect your inner experience and outer experience, and you know when you're stretching yourself. And everybody that knows me knows that I'm good at stretching comfort zone. I think that's what I was meant to do in the world, is see people and then champion for them. That's what I think is my two things. I saw you.
It's pretty special.
And then I championed you, and I had the courage to be honest and direct and loving. And, that's why I have this podcast. It's like, I want to shine the light on these awesome people that I find. It's why I'm hosting a Slay with Shay event. Come to Lake Tahoe. Dino will be there in September, the 15th through the 17th. Because if I see you, if I'm in your presence, if we have a conversation, I generally can quickly find your blocks. And if you're open, if the student is ready, I might just say, hey, what about this? I already challenged you to do that. Or would you be open-minded to boom? Yep. And we all need people in our lives that see us and that help give us that next step or two on our growth path. And we need a lot of champions waving our flag. The other thing I'd like to bring up is that you're not alone, Dino, in realizing that you've gone cold on one of your natural strengths. I did too. The reason I came up with this sales archetype and this rainmaker movement is because I literally felt like I was losing. My branch went from 1.6 billion in COVID down to 400 million. We fell back 75%. And I know all the people who listen to this podcast, they don't like losing. And a lot of us, we put our value and our worth in our numbers and our outcomes. And over the last 2 years, we've just been beat up in our self-worth. And in COVID, I moved to Spain. I stopped networking. I stopped putting myself out there. I stopped meeting strangers and new realtors because I had been doing it for like 10 years, with my ass on fire. And I was tired and I was burnt out. And COVID allowed me to be an introvert and to be, recluse and still have this great business. And I think, what I'm having fun with in Rainmaker is getting out in the world, doing these workshops, talking to people via this podcast, talking to people on DMs. And they all say like, I'm glad you're doing that again. Just like your wife said, I'm glad you're out doing that again. Like
I'm glad you're doing that.
Yep. You love events. You love conferences. You love teaching classes. Like, hello.
I do. Yep.
So thank you for sharing that story. All right. So we're going to do a little sales dojo.
Okay.
With Dino. And one of the things that we've been talking a lot about is about the professional presentation or consultation from a loan officer. Yeah. So tell me about your philosophies on these consultations, and then where do we blow it as loan officers? What have you been observing?
My philosophy is every single mortgage consultant should have a professional consultation. And I'm not talking a professional consultation that is the phone call, here's who I am, let me tell you about FHA and conventional, okay, FHA's for you, I'll send you my link. To me, that is like the worst service you can do for a borrower. And it doesn't matter if they're first time, second time move up investor, because I look at it like this. If you don't realize how much value you bring from all the meetings you've had with people and all the loans you've done and all the guidelines you've read and all the shit you've been through to get loans closed, if you don't know that that's like actual value and that you can kind of channel that into a consultation, then I guarantee your closings are inconsistent. You're doing so many price exceptions because you're getting shopped. Like I know it. So here's a real life example. So I've got 19 lending clients. Okay, so 19. I have had them all record their consultation. And I'm talking from the first phone call to the actual consultation. And I've listened to them all and like, I'm super disappointed. So two of them did a very good job. Two. Here's why the others failed, in my opinion. And these are good loan officers. Like, they're technically smart. They have great businesses, long time standing relationships with realtors and financial advisors, but they paint themselves into a commodity box that just freaking irritates me, because within the first 60 seconds, they say the word interest rate like 5 times. Within the first 2 minutes, they've created themselves a simple commodity, and they go into full pre-qual mode.
Wow.
That destroys how you can frame your professional consultation. So in my opinion, your professional consultation needs to be somewhat of a laid out, orchestrated kind of event, like an experience. And I know people love speed, and I do agree speed wins deals, and I do agree technology is badass, not at the expense of the experience though. And here's what I mean. Like, if you can frame, I have some actual examples that I'm just now thinking of. So I have a client who went from the typical ring, ring, hello. Okay, here's my link. Okay, hey everybody, you're pre-approved with, like 99% of American loan officers, like that's how they all do it. To then going 180 and doing an actual consultation. And what they found was their borrowers submit all their stuff much quicker. It's more complete. Okay. The borrowers transact much quicker, and the borrowers, like, the shopping, zero. It like literally plummets. And you're like, well, how can that be? So think of it like this. An educated borrower is going to trust you more. When you deliver education, and I'm not saying teach them all the loan guidelines. I'm saying create a custom consultation that teaches them like where they are and how it's going to work. Because when you show them options and give them information without any sort of obligation, without like any sort of pressure, that person you increase your trust big time compared to not doing it. So the biggest way I serve loan officers is to literally have them retool how they take their first phone call. And it's a paradigm shift, because if you look at the simple math, Shayla, so Fannie Mae, the US Census Bureau, they always put out all these studies. Okay, so for example, do you know how often, like, how many homes does the US homeowner buy in their lifetime? Okay, it's between 2 and 3. Okay, it's between 2 and 3. So the average person will buy between 2 and 3 homes. And while they own a home, they get between 2 and 3 mortgages. So if you think about it, you fund a loan today for this client, and it's their first home. Statistically, they're going to buy 2 more. And then during that process, they're going to get at least 2 mortgages, maybe 3. So you have the opportunity to do 6 to 9 loans for that one client if you kick ass. If you increase your trust, that all comes from education. If you do a great presentation and you educate them, and all of a sudden they're like, man, this person makes a lot of sense. Nobody's ever explained it to me before like this. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Now you have a shot at all their future business. If that's not enough, think of this. My son goes to Columbia. And so I'm like all into Columbia the past couple of years. So I'm following their social media and stuff. So there's this Professor Gelman at Columbia, and he's an economist. And he did a study in 2023 of the social network of the average American. So the social network of the average American is between 600 and 610 people, according to Professor Gelman.
Wow.
But in that social network of 600 to 610, there's between 10 and 15 people that are the inner circle of high trust, high influence. High trust, high influence. So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, so this one client that I might be able to do, I should have an opportunity to do 6 to 9 loans for in the next 15 years. They also know 10 to 15 people that have a high trust. Well, mortgage is very high trust, right?
Yep.
You have to have, it's a high trust kind of referral. You're not going to refer a maybe high trust. I'm going to refer you at this amazing consultant. Yep. All right. So also, if you look at the math, homeowners transact, every homeowner in America transacts, you take all of homeowners, 4.9% of them transact every year. 4.9% buy, sell, or refinance. So you're one client who knows 600 people, but knows 10 to 15. Think if you have 50, I wrote it down so I won't get the math wrong. If you have 50 happy past clients, Shayla, you are exposed to an additional 25 referrals per year if you do it right.
Yep.
If you have 100 past clients, you're exposed to 50 additional referrals. So you sit there and ask yourself, well, hey man, I have 200 happy past clients. I think they're happy, but I'm not getting 150 opportunities. So bingo, bro. That's a retooling moment. Like so the question is now, how can you? So now you have two things you can work on. Now you can work on your upfront consultation so you can stop that hole in the bucket. And now you could go back to your 100 or 200 past clients and figure out like, my God, I am sitting on a gold mine.
Yep.
If like this Columbia University, like say they're half right. So I am so sold on the value of a professional consultation. So here's the final little nail in the coffin for those people who are listening who are like, Dino, I'm too busy. Dino, I'm just don't. So all my loan officers, they track all their leads. In 2024, and if I added up all the leads they got divided by all their closings, their lead to close was 18.1%. Okay. 18.1%. They also track how many professional consultations they do. So guess what their professional consultation to close percent is?
60%.
Well, it's 55. It's 55. It was just over 55. So imagine what that means. Okay. You're a loan officer and you're telling me that if a realtor refers you, they have over 2 times greater ROI. That's exactly what we're telling you. So the value you bring to the real estate community, what you're selling, that's a good question that people should ask themselves. What am I selling? What really am I selling? If you can bring to the marketplace, like when a realtor refers me, out of their 10 leads, they can refer Joe Blow competitor, or they can refer me, because I know when they refer me properly, and when it's set up properly, we have over 2x times greater chance of not just closing the deal.
Yep.
That's hella value. So how do you practice it is killer. How you keep refining it is killer. You should never be completely satisfied with your presentation. You should never, there's always ways to make it better and better and better. That's why I love what I have, but you know what, Shay? I love what I had 7 years ago too. But if I'd have stuck to that and not gotten out of my comfort zone to make it a little better, it wouldn't be as badass as it is today. It's gotten way better to the point now where now I'm obsessed with, okay, I am going for 60. I want that 60%. Like, how can we make it better? How can we make it better? And so we're working on like, how do you collect a fee? How do you get commitment? You know, like what's there's all sorts of ways.
I'll tell you that to have 55% in the most unaffordable market of, recent decades is unbelievable. My mentality before I started getting coached was I don't have time to meet with people. I was working 12-hour days, hustling harder than anybody I knew, usually with 2 phones to my ear. One, clearing underwriting conditions and moving loans through my pipeline and chasing stuff down because I never had a team. Nobody could do it as fast as me. I wanted to close every deal in 12 days and be everybody's hero. And everything was a rush. And 2, providing scenarios and quick pre-approvals for people. And I thought that my value was making life easy for people. And moving at light speed. But that had me hit a plateau. And so I heard a coach say something very similar to what you just said, which is like, wait a minute, is it really a waste of time if for every 2 meetings, I'm getting a paycheck on 1 out of 2 meetings? Ding, ding, ding.
Ding,
Number
ding, ding.
2, if people cooperate with my process better, meaning submit their documents and my stress goes down, the contract to close experience is better because I've met with them up front in a professional, educational consultation. Yay for lowered stress and better transactions. I really want to close on time and smooth. Nobody likes to limp over the finish line, right?
Right.
And if they are willing to get into contract faster because they're educated and motivated and I've created urgency,
Yeah.
Not only does the realtor get paid faster, but I don't have to follow up for 6 months on a pre-approval.
Yeah.
I'm risking that the media talks them out of it. Their friend talks them out of it. They've
Yeah.
blown their money.
Yeah.
Like that's a powerful thing. And then the last thing is shopping goes down to virtually zero because I've taken the time it takes
Yeah.
to build the trust, to educate them, to do all of those things. So 100% in agreement that once I went to in-person pre-approval meetings and I readjusted my life and I changed my mindset from I'm going to get you a quick answer like by today, instead saying the next step is,
Yeah.
and taking their online app either over the phone or giving them my link, but booking that appointment for 2 or 3 days later, or even a week or two later because they're out of town or whatever the time is, having the trust and confidence that that pre-approval meeting and educational consult is so valuable that I would rather lose somebody that needed a quick thing rather than like give everybody what they want and not follow my process. And my business exploded, especially because those clients not only referred me to more clients, not only closed at a higher percentage, but guess what? Every time go back to the real estate agent and said, wow, that was a good meeting. Like she's impressive. I've got the information I need. And that earns you the next referral, the next referral.
And that's the move. That's literally one of the secret sauces in the consultation process is at the end of the meeting, you throw the realtor in on conference call, on speakerphone and say, hey, Shayla, I'm here with the Shidsteins. We just finished up. How'd you guys like it? And then they yell, oh my God, it was great. It was amazing, Shayla. And it's like, yeah, here's where we are. We're ready. We're not ready, whatever it is. But that edification at the end, all that realtor's thinking of is like, man, what went on? Like wow, that was just an open house lead. Like, God, that was killer,
And even better, bring your realtors to your pre-approval meetings. If they can watch you work with a client and they can hear the artfulness that we've got to go through from getting somebody to say, I only want a $2,500 payment, to getting them to realize that $3,200 a month is where they need to be. And they saw you do that and influence them and educate them on a rent versus own, on showing them how much money is going towards principal every single month, on getting them to understand that there's sacrifices in buying a home, but let's talk about where this could get you in the next 5 years. By watching you connect emotionally on the fears that they have and what home ownership will mean to them in terms of their stress and their stability. Like they watch you on stage performing. I'm sorry, they're not referring and risking their next commission with another loan officer. And so we are coming to a close on this call, Dino. I'm so grateful that you're in my life, that you're in the Slay with Shay community, that you're going to be at the Tahoe event. You currently have 29 clients and Ultimate Business Partner. Your full load is about 35. Some of those you coach one-on-one and in small groups. So if people want to already interact with you or take your free Built to Last assessment to see like where they need to work on their business and not in their business, how can they connect with you?
Best way is through Instagram at UBP Consulting. That would be good. You could just connect with me there and we could start a conversation that way. That would be epic.
And let me just say, UBP, Ultimate Business Partner.
Yeah.
I love the name of your coaching practice because don't you all want to be the ultimate business partner? When you think about being a rainmaker, if you are viewed as like, gosh, working with Dino, he's the ultimate business partner. He makes my life better. He makes me money. He's reliable. I love this guy. That's security. That's highly referred leads. That is a true pro that is not only the top performer, but has a real business, is have the goal in your life to become somebody else's ultimate business partner because of your attitude, your effort, your processes. Guys, if you can't tell, we're both very passionate about coaching. Yeah. So find a mentor, find a coach, reach out to Dino, come to Slay with Shay so that you can figure out your blind spots, your comfort zone, and how you can expand it. Dino, thank you so much for your time today. You absolutely crushed it.
Thank you, Shayla. What a pleasure.